we've got up quite early this morning to do some landscape photography, and we've not been blessed with great weather. We were hoping for ice, snow possibly, because a lot of places have got snow, and we hope for some decent light to kind of bring it all to life. Sadly, that hasn't happened. We've got flat lighting today. But we're not going to give up, because actually in less than ideal conditions you can still get some really good photographs if you really think about the composition and if you really challenge yourself when you're actually there doing the shots. So let's go and see what we can find. You don't have to live somewhere spectacular like the Lake District or the west coast of Scotland to take great landscape photographs. Go and explore your local area. Oh, this wall's a little bit high. Oh, yeah, ouch, getting old. Use your feet. Get out and about and look for the right compositional elements to help you take a great photograph. Well, I think this is going to be probably the shot today. I don't need this tripod at the moment, or the bag actually, because the first thing I want to do is just really assess the scene and to have a look and have a think about how I'm going to photograph it. Is it going to be a telephoto shot? Is it a wide angle shot? What are the best angles, and what am I going to try to include in the picture? And just as importantly, what don't I want in the picture? Because often landscape photography is about leaving things out and just including the bits you want. In a sense, designing what you have in front of you. So that's what I'm going to start with. So I'm going to have a look literally around this whole area here. I just want to see what textures, because I really like the sort of the textures down here in the water, because they could make a foreground possibly. I've got some ice, saying there was no ice earlier, but there's actually quite a lot of ice, maybe a little bit of a sleet shower overnight that's still there, so it's clearly very cold. I also really like this post, and there's another post just behind me up here. If I can get John on the camera, by the way, if I can get John to go back. So this post is really nice. I like the textures here, and we've got some lead in from the old barbed wire fence, which is quite good, and they're leading us down that way along with the river up to the bridge and then the wintry trees behind it. So I think this is probably going to be a wide angle shot, but at this point, having got an idea that this is probably where I'm going to shoot from, I need to go to the camera bag and actually get out a camera. So with a camera now, what I want to do is I want to have a look at the scene I've identified and start to, not fine tune it, but tune it a bit. So just have a little look through the lens itself. I'm not even bothering to switch it on at this point. That doesn't matter. I'm just trying to work out where my composition is and what height I should be. And camera height is really important, particularly with a shot like this. Whether you're higher or lower can make quite a bit of difference to the composition. So that's one of the first things I work out, particularly when I'm using a wide angle lens like I am today. It's really important just to work out where that height is and then make a mental note of it. So I'm thinking it's about here. I'll probably fine tune it when I get the tripod out, be about here, and I can set up and then I can work from there. So the next step is to get the tripod. So let's bring the tripod and try to get it at that height we've already identified. Really cold, my hands are cold on here, but I don't like wearing gloves when I'm doing this, so I'm going to be hardy about it. First of all, I always will open up the tripod from the top, because those are the most stable parts. You don't want to sort of have those all closed up and then use the little spindly bits to set it up. So I'm going to start there. So I need to drop down a couple of the smaller legs just to get that nice and level and steady and sturdy. That's what I want. I don't want to feel that everything's going to disappear into the river at any point. So that'll do for now. That's about right. So next thing is to get the camera. So let's get the camera on the tripod itself. Going to lock that in nice and tight so there's no chance of that coming off. And this is the point where I really start to fine tune. So I think this is although it's a landscape shot, it's actually an upright landscape shot. So I'm just going to start working that composition even more. I'm working with this bit in the foreground just being the interesting point for me. So it's a little bit there. I am actually, having said I'm not going to move the column, I just want to take the column up a fraction. Not too much, so I don't unbalance it, but there's nothing unbalanced about that. It's nice and sturdy. That gives me that little bit of freedom. I don't want too much sky, because the sky here is, well, as we said, there's not much light. It's blur. It's like one of those sort of days. There is some detail there which we can maybe think about how we're going to mood up. But basically I've got foreground interest, I've got the bank, I've got a bit of the river coming in, and then I've got the nice old bridge in the background with the wintry trees behind. So we've set up, we've got the tripod in the place, camera in the place. I've already thought a little bit about settings, and I should be taking the shot now, shouldn't I? But actually, this is the point where you stop and you think to yourself, is this the best shot that I can get here? And if there's any nagging doubt that you haven't properly explored the scene that you're in, then you take stock of the situation. So that's what I do. I'm just going to stop, leave the camera here, and I'm going to have another look at the scene to see if I can find something better than this shot. Now I've come less than 10 feet from where I started that setup, photo buzzers, and I think this is the better shot, and this is where I should have been from the start, okay? So I think that's what this is what this video is all about, is to get you to think and then think again about your landscape shots. Just don't take the first thing that you come across. Really, really explore that scene and have a look and think about what we're doing. Up there, the post makes a really quite nice foreground interest, but in this light, tonally, it's blending in with the green of the bank. There's not a lot of other texture going on, and it just looks a bit... it doesn't work, it's not really exciting me. Whereas here, just moving down closer to the river, for the wide angle shot, I've got this brilliant area of foreground interest. I've got these dyed back reeds, I've got some colour in those, some really nice kind of wintry fawns and kind of browns in there, a few little bits of green going in. I've got a little bit of texture on top of the water. The river is leading me better up to the bridge, and then I get more of the bridge's reflection in the water. This is the shot I should be taking. I'm going to go and get the camera and the tripod. Well, I've set up the camera now on the tripod, turned vertically, just as I had it before. I'm not far away from the first spot, but here I'm much, much happier. And that's only the case because I stopped and I thought, and I challenged myself again, am I in the right place? Is this the right area to get the shot in these conditions? Because what's happening today is we haven't got great light. We haven't got anything that's really giving us any extra advantage. Now, while composition is important in any situation, you always try to get the best composition, particularly when you've got a flat day, it becomes vital, absolutely vital. So now I've got a really nice contrasting foreground. Works brilliantly for the wide angle approach. And I say the bridge in the background, the leading down of the river to the bridge, all works pretty well. Now the sky isn't perfect. We've got a drab sky. I'm going to cut out quite a lot of the sky. I could put on a filter, but I'm not going to put on a filter. I'm actually going to worry about that in post-processing by making sure I get as much information as I can. Obviously, I'm shooting raw. I'm shooting on the lowest ISO. Got to put my glasses on, folks. Sorry, this is a sign of getting age. I'm 54, you know, getting on a little bit, and I can't manage without my reading glasses. Now, I'm just going to put on live view so I can kind of have a look what I've got, so I can see here where everything's right. I've actually switched the camera to manual focus, and I'm just going to focus roughly, going to zoom in and focus roughly a third into that scene. I'm not going to worry about hyperfocal distances. There we go, it's just that's in there. I could go in a bit tighter, but I can see that at ×5, I know that's absolutely sharp. We can go in again to ×10. But there you go, no reason to refocus that. So I know that that's going to be good. The reason I'm going roughly a third into the scene here is that will give me the maximum amount of sharpness towards the bottom of the frame and also behind it up to that bridge. So if I choose the right aperture, probably f11, f16, then we should get really nice sharpness through. So at the moment it's on f8 and I want it to be F11. So as I take that back, I'm going to say F11. We could do F16, but F11 should be fine. You can see that darkening down. Now, actually, that's slightly darker for the foreground than I would ideally like. But what it is doing is making sure that I've got some detail in the sky that I can work on later in post-processing. So if we bring up, I'm just going to bring up my histogram there. Look, that's showing me nothing. I know it's on the side because I'm working vertically. It's quite hard for you guys. But on the right-hand side of the histogram here, I've got a little gap that shows nothing's burnt out. And I think that's about perfect for this scene. I'm going to work with that because I can play around with getting the tonal range right. So we're just going to take the shot now. And there we have it. That's the image that we're going to take into post-processing and hopefully spruce up a little bit. Well, it's much, much warmer back in the Photobuzz HQ recording studio, and this is our raw file from the shoot. As you can see, lighting, as we've said, was definitely very much against us on this occasion, but we're pretty sure we can improve on it. Compositionally, we've talked about that in the video. It's got nice foreground area and a good leading line up to the bridge, quite interesting. So this is our basic starting point from the raw. I've slightly underexposed it fractionally. Look, if you look at the histogram, it's just slightly in from the right on the highlights. And that's so we've got all this detail. We've got detail in the sky. And the sky is where we're going to start. Now, I'm going to really fly through this now because I don't want us to spend too much time here. So I'm just going to select a graduated filter. And I'm going to drop that down just about to the kind of middle of where the trees are. I'm going to select the range mask onto luminance, and I'm going to change the range to work from the midtones, that's the middle, to the highlights on the right hand side. Click effect just to get rid of any, just make you zero all the sliders off, and then I'm going to take highlights all the way to -100. You can see straight away that's bringing some detail back, and I'm going to do the same thing with whites, which is going to bring some more detail back. And then I am going to select a second grad, and I'm just going to drop that grad a little bit shorter, maybe just the top of those trees, maybe a little bit further down like so. And for this one, again, click effect, double click effect to get that back. I'm just going to take the temperature back to the left so it makes it fractionally bluer, and then I'm going to take exposure back to the left as well, about -50, 0.50. And so we've got some detail in the sky. We could go further, we can make it more moody if we want, but I think we'll stop there and close down on the graduated filters. Now, our foreground area and the middle distance is all at the moment underexposed, so I'm just going to take an adjustment brush, and I'm really going quite a big adjustment brush, and I'm going to basically brush over the whole of the picture very quickly. I'm doing this very quickly. Hope that's right. Hit 0 so I can see where I've brushed. That's just about right. Okay, and then again, double click effects, 0 it back, and I'm just going to brighten that area up. And then I'm going to warm it up by taking white balance slider slightly to the right, not too much, don't want to make it look too fake. That's better already, and stop. That's all I'm going to do with that. So I'm going to close that one down again. Now, the next thing I want to do is go back to the basics tab, and I want to increase the contrast in this picture quite a bit here. I'm going 25, 26, bring out a little bit of the punch of the picture, and do the same with clarity. Take that up to about 12, 14, 15, that'll do. That's nice, that's working quite nicely. Okay, so I'm looking at what I've got. Done all right so far, very quickly. Going to go back to adjustment brushes, so I'm kind of making this up as I go along to see how it works. Small adjustment brush, and I'm just going to paint over the bridge area quite roughly. See, I'm doing everything quite roughly and feathered in Lightroom, and over the reflection at all, because if I change the exposure on the bridge, I need to do that on the at the same time on the reflection. So
double click effect 2 to get rid of that, and I'm just going to lighten that area a fraction so it makes the bridge stand out a little bit better. I can add a bit of contrast in there too, and again I'm just going to warm it up. I like it kind of so it reflects a bit more the reeds in the foreground. It ties those things in together a little bit better than it is already, so that is excellent. Liking that. Close that down. Now, could probably leave it there, but I'm just going to tweak vibrance. I'm not going to bother going into HSL and selectively doing it. I'm just going to push the vibrance up again a tiny amount just to bring a little bit more colour out of there. And then I'm going to go to tone curve. Always do a nice shallow tone curve, as you all know. And to a bit at the top, a little bit at the bottom. Maybe that's slightly too much. Take it back down again. In fact, you see it is really shallow, but it's made a little bit of difference. And now, if we look at our first image, there it is. Flat, dull, overcast day. Colours aren't coming through because there's no light helping us, nothing helping us. But we've got a kind of nice composition with the foreground, detail, interesting stuff going on down there. And we have got also a nice lead in from the reeds taking us along towards the bridge in the background. Plus we've also got that kind of the trees and stuff, so it's quite nice there. But now, if we bring in the finished image again, there we go. Our finished image is showing us more vibrancy, a bit of punch, added some contrast. Importantly, we've sorted out that dull white sky. We've not brought anything in. All that information was there in the raw. I've just tweaked it. Very, very slightly. And I think you'll agree that that is a pretty good result for such an awful day.
Well, I hope you like what I've done in post-processing with the image I've just taken. Just to summarise then today, really this is just a reminder that when you go out to take a landscape, you've got to really look around and get the best composition you possibly can in any conditions, but particularly on a day where the light isn't helping you. But you also, even if you think you've got a good shot, stop. Challenge yourself, photo buzzers. That's what this is my real point today. Challenge your thinking and say to yourself, could it be better? Because it might, just as I had today, be a few yards to the right, to the left, even a tweak on the camera tripod and where you are, higher, lower, whatever. Something as simple as that can make a difference between being an okay shot and a really good shot. And that's what I want you to get, really good shots every time.